The ambassador of France to Niger is being held hostage. Now, things are getting worse and worse for France, and it's pinning them in a corner to where they have no choice but to act with their military. Because guess what? The French are not leaving. The ambassador was asked to leave. He never left. Well, now he's being held hostage. But that's according to France. Let's break this down. Now, first things first, here is where he's being held hostage. This is really not that bad of a deal. He has an entire embassy where he's being held. Now, according to the French president, the ambassador of France and the diplomats who also hang out in this area are being forced to eat military rations, MREs. Now, again, stick with me in this video because we're going to be talking about, well, the French had the opportunity to leave, but they also had the opportunity to try and talk peace, but it never happened. Something else I always like to point out, because a lot of people don't know this, the French share an embassy space with the United States. Right next door is the American side, and the French have this courtyard area over here. Now, what I find really awkward and interesting is that the French and the United States, they're really strong allies, and all of a sudden the French are out here eating MREs, and it's not looking good for them. I wonder if the United States is helping them out a little bit, but nonetheless, let's dig into this and see what this hostage situation is all about. Okay, so nearly every single news article is reporting the exact same thing, and we're going to see exact quotes from the president of France. Now, you'll notice it says here, French ambassador to Niger held hostage in embassy, President Macron says. Now, you'll notice there's a quotation or, held hostage, and you'll see why this might be a little over embellished. Maybe it looks like the French are trying to instigate a problem here, or maybe the French are trying to find a reason to provoke a fight, and you'll see exactly what I mean. The ambassador is living off military rations, Macron told reporters. Macron, the French president, in the eastern town of Saumur in Axios. As we speak, we have an ambassador and diplomatic staff who are literally being held hostage in the French embassy. Literally. They are preventing food deliveries, he said, in an apparent reference to Niger's new military rulers. He is eating military rations. There's a lot of harping and hype about these military rations. If I'm going to be honest with you, that's why they are there. If there was ever some sort of an emergency in Niger, that's what these military rations are for. But I'm going to be honest with you. Instigating the military rations, don't you feel bad that your ambassador is eating what every single military member in the world has to eat? He's an ambassador. He shouldn't be eating military rations. And I'm just going to be honest with you, this is kind of a really lame excuse to try to get into this conflict with military action. Now, something else we have to put into context is that the junta didn't just straight up go after the French ambassador. They didn't play this dirty game of, okay, we took over the president and now we're going to take over the French. No. They actually gave the junta gave the French a 48-hour timeline to leave the country. Now, I'm not about to sit here and act like this is a very easy thing to fix. France, just leave after about 100 years of working with Niger. Just leave the country. I don't think it works like that, but nonetheless, the French did sort of put their ambassador in an odd situation where they just left him there like nothing was going to happen. And it even says right here, but after a 48-hour ultimatum for him to leave, issued in August, passed with him still in place as the French government refused to comply or to recognize the military regime as legitimate, the coup has been condemned by France and most of Niger's neighbors. And if I'm also going to be honest with you, the president of France has it 10 times easier than your ambassador who's in an already unstable country when it was kind of stable, if you catch my drift. Here's what kind of annoys me. Macron said the envoy cannot go out. He is persona non grata and he is being refused food. And he was asked whether France would consider bringing him home. Macron said, I will do whatever we agree with President Bazoum because he is a legitimate authority and I speak with him every day. The reason why this statement is really annoying, look, even the United States recognizes, the junta is not the legitimate authority. They're not, recognized by the world, but they have the power. So they really are the authority. France is talking to a guy who's being held hostage himself. And so obviously the guy who's being held hostage, he has nothing to lose. Of course, send in the French. Keep the ambassador, send in the French military. So you can kind of see how when you really start to break this down, is the French really being held hostage, or are we sort of trying to instigate a story here from the French to, justify actually invading a country now? And I'm not here trying to be like anti-French and like the French stink, but I'm just trying to say what the story really is, because With the French saying, well, this is a hostage situation. He's not getting any food. He's eating military rations. The people of Niger have actually been protesting rather peacefully and using a democratic way of protesting. They're not trying to destroy the embassy. They're not trying to do illegal activities. In fact, the country of Niger prevented its own citizens from doing bad actions. They even put their own military troops in front of the French embassy. So again, here are clips to prove this point.
A charged atmosphere in front of a military base in Niamey, where hundreds of French forces are camped. Niger security forces barricade the entrance, denying access.
Okay, so you heard that. Niger actually barricaded the French, not the French barricaded themselves. So you actually have an odd twist of events of where the French or Niger is actually protecting the French, but Niger is also protecting its citizens, not giving any excuse for the French to actually invoke military intervention. So again, I'm trying to paint this picture to show you that Niger has tried to do everything by the book by kicking the guys out of here and not instigating violence.
Denying access to thousands of coup supporters. Without access, the demonstrators start praying.
Now, in this clip, I'm going to show you where the French are coming from and how they're saying the junta has no authority. We're not going to listen to them. We're just going to leave all of our people in place, and that really is biting the French in the butt.
It's the latest broadside launched in the direction of France by the ruling junta in Niger. The military rulers who overthrew the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum in late July have now ordered France's envoy to Niger to leave. The junta accuses France of intending to mount a military intervention, saying that the West African bloc ECOWAS was doing Paris's bidding.
The competent Nigerian authorities have decided to withdraw their approval from Mr. Sylvain Ité and to ask him to leave Nigerian territory within 48 hours.
The French government, not recognising the junta as the legitimate rulers of Niger, has refused the request, and its ambassador is not inclined yet to leave Niamey.
Okay, so again, we have an odd conflicting interest here because the country of Niger, the rulers, the junta, who in my opinion now really are in charge, they have the power. They took away ambassadorship from the French. Like, he legally can't be there. So now you're in our country illegally. And not only that, the president of France is talking to Mohamed Bazoum, who's not the president of Niger anymore. So you guys are talking illegally as well. So again, you can sort of see how the French are stirring their own pot, and everyone knew that this would instigate violence. That's why the United States pulled all of their assets out of Niamey. I'm going to take the biggest educated guess, and you know this is not even that crazy or far-fetched to say this. You know damn well the United States asked the French, are you guys leaving? No, you're not leaving? Well, we are leaving because you guys are about to deal with a bunch of crap. Niger has nothing to lose. Like, their country's already falling apart. That's why there is a junta. I'm not hating on Niger, but I'm trying to show you, again, the French are instigating this violence, you know, within Africa. And I'm like the last person to be anti-France, but in this case, they really are, you know, poking the bear with a stick, if you will.
Niger's official foreign minister also tweeted that the ambassador was accredited by the elected, legitimate and legal president of Niger. In addition to the United States and the European Union, ECOWAS has imposed heavy sanctions on the junta and has threatened to intervene militarily if it does not step down.
And here's a final clip of the French president, again, just instigating upon instigating actions towards Niger and how he says, we don't recognize you. And Niger really is fighting back at the top. Going after French government officials. Now, they have released some French officials, but nonetheless, it goes to show that the junta, they know who to go after. We're not going to go after French civilians. We're not going to capture these randoms. We're going to go after the ambassador.
We do not recognize the putschists. We support the president who has not resigned, who will remain committed to, and we support the diplomatic action and military action, should it be the case, of ECOWAS, within a partnership approach, which is the one I presented last February. Neither paternalism nor weakness, because otherwise we won't get anywhere.
Now, as I was doing research for this video, this is not the first time the French have actually dealt with a hostage situation with an ambassador. Back in 1975, The French ambassador to Somalia was actually held hostage for 5 days. Now, they definitely had a way easier ransom. They asked for $100,000 worth of gold. So, of course, it can't be traced and you can't follow them. And, the guy made it back. The ambassador to Somalia made it back to Paris in 5 days, and all was well. So, again, the French have actually dealt with this before. And when you're operating in unstable countries, like especially Somalia, or countries in the Sahel in Central Africa, Western Central Africa, it can turn really bad for you real quick. So yeah, being held hostage, maybe I can sort of see a case for it, not allowing food to be delivered to your ambassador. But again, it's not like he doesn't have any food. He definitely doesn't have any running water or electricity, but I have reason to believe and might be a little suspicious on the United States, possibly giving them some potable water and some other assets. But again, this whole trying to make the ambassador feel bad for he has to eat military rations. Where's that same energy for troops who have to fight? I've never seen a French president be like, oh, don't you feel bad for our troops? They're eating military rations. Let's go get them a gourmet meal. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. Allegedly, apparently, the ambassador to Niger is being held hostage. I give this 3 to 4 days until we find out if there's going to be military intervention, depending on how many rations they have. Once those rations run out, there's either going to be a helicopter that swoops right in and pulls them out of there and brings them to the French base. Because look, the French are not leaving, and ECOWAS is probably training their butts off to try getting troops in there. Because I don't know if the French are going to lead the charge, but they're definitely going to be involved with this military intervention. So we'll see what happens. I hope there is no violence. But yeah, being held hostage, I guess so.